that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm just glad that our president has a sense of humor again. Make presidents funny again. Good morning, you beautiful liberty lovers. What are you doing here? It's Monday morning, 7:06 a.m. Central Time on August the 4th, 2025. Shouldn't you be sleeping right now? Maybe you're dreaming. Maybe you're really back in the 1990s and on. You're back in the 1990s. You've got the N64 controller in your hands. Life is good. No work to do. No job. Parents are paying for everything. Well, wake up, sleepyhead. It's time. You're an adult now. You've got a mortgage. You've got rent. You've got bills to pay. You need to know what's going on in the world, including the most important story in all of news and politics, the Sydney Sweeney ad. What's up, Drew Van Runkle? How you doing there in the San Francisco airport? Floby Tenderson's hanging out. In Jam 77, Drew Van Runkle. Quest fanning L-Dubs as well. L-Dubs. He's the black guy we keep around so that we don't get in trouble. Good morning. Just kidding. I'm your favorite performer, presidential candidate, big-time coffee addict, had a double shot of espresso made with Franklin's Electric Elixir over at the 4 Liberty shop. Good God, it freaking delicious. Now, I taste coffee from other places where it's just like standard. I got like a can of Bustelo because it was on sale. It sucked. Wah wah. Don't waste your money. Just unlock the bonus content with Founding Flavors Coffee at 4libertyshop.com. I'm telling you guys, you drink it, you'll be spoiled. Maybe you shouldn't drink it if you don't want to get spoiled. All right, it's Monday, August the 4th. We got a banger of a show for you today. Sydney Sweeney in an American Eagle ad wearing a red hat kind of banger. And trust me, this sentence is probably going to get me banned from at least one subreddit and shadow banned from Pinterest. Apparently, the leftist bot army has been activated on my account. I don't know if you guys follow me over on X, but for like the last several days, and even really kind of going back a few weeks when it was at its height, Harry Calzone, he's kind of like, you know, the left's poster boy twink that they put out to do all of their TikTok commercials. You know, the little kid that met Joe Biden at the White House and was like, oh, he's totally going to win, you guys. The guy who does videos of him dancing around in his socks quite frequently. Well, he sicked the left Zoomer army on me about a month and a half ago over the tariffs in the shoe store, completely misunderstanding the tweet that I posted about tariffs and my shoe store, saying, oh, you voted for Donald Trump, you effed around, you found out. Well, I voted for Donald Trump, and we all found out, sadly. Womp womp. Manufacturing jobs are down. Trump's firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because she gave him the numbers that he didn't want to see. We're going to talk to Jon Miltimore about that and more. But first up this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, only 20 minutes from now, we've got 3 guests on this show today, guys. It's going to go bump, bump, bump. It's going to go fast. You do not want to miss a minute of the Wake Up America show today because I've got 3 amazing guests stacked back to back. At 7:30, we got Mark McCloskey. Remember him? Yeah, the Mark McCloskey, the St. Louis man who became a Second Amendment icon during the BLM riots. Well, he's here to talk about how 5 years later, he's finally getting his AR-15 back. That's right. Harry Calzone, not Harry Calzone. We're going to talk to Mark McCloskey this morning at 7:30 a.m. About him getting his AR-15 back. That's right, folks. Justice delayed is not always justice denied. Drew Van Runkle says, is the show going to be good enough for me to pay $8 for the airplane Wi-Fi? There's only one way to find out, Drew. At 8 a.m. Central, we bring in the brilliant Jon Miltimore to break down why President Trump just fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics after a disappointing jobs report and what that means for manufacturing jobs and the MAGA movement's economic promises. You want to know what really FAFO stands for? Not just F around and find out. But what real I voted for Trump knowing that I was against the tariffs, saying I was against the tariffs the whole time. but making the trade-off and just saying, listen, there's got to be some bad with the good. You hope that the good outweighs the bad. And I think with Donald Trump over Kamala, it certainly has. There would have been no Doge. There's a lot of good bright spots in the Trump administration. The tariffs are just not part of it, no matter how much you think it might be. People are out there saying, look, they didn't think there was going to be any tariff revenue. Well, yeah, when you tax people, you get revenue for the government. That's our money, of course. We're being taxed to pay for it. But the true meaning of FAFO is a man, business owner, patriotic business owner, just like myself. He trades on patriotism, just like I do. God-loving, God-fearing American. A man who owns a knife shop was saying, well, if you just don't want to pay the tariffs, well, just buy American, he said. He posted a video and said, well, you just buy American, and then you don't have to worry about the tariffs because he manufactures knives here in the United States. Well, guess where he gets the steel that he makes his knives from? Womp womp. No. Could it be from China? Now he's going out of business and he's become another right-wing grifter. Give me money, go fund me. Give me the money, even though I kicked myself in the nuts. I mean, I would have more respect for the guy if he would have been honest in the first place that he buys things from China. Do people just not understand that even American manufacturers, people who actually do manufacture things here in the United States, they source their blanks from China? Do you guys listen, guys? I don't want to disappoint anybody here who thinks that thinks that I'm 100% pure blooded red blood loving American. I certainly am. But the trucker hats that we sell, guys, they come from Canada.
Oh God! No,
The communist nation of America's hats. Philby Anderson says his knives are way overpriced anyway. He got that meat eater endorsement. I have no idea what that is. What's John Rail doing? Drew Van Runkle says everything comes from China. Yeah, because nobody wants to work in factories where you make steel and get your hand sliced off. We leave that for our Chinese slaves. Thank you. At 8:30 this morning on the Wake Up America show, we'll go from Jon Miltimore dunking on the libtards in the GOP. We'll go from there to 8:30 a.m. when we're going to talk to Ron Calzone, who I have not introduced you all to. It's his first time on the Wake Up America show. You see my commitment to getting you guys new names and faces here on the show. The reason why Drew Van Runkle has to pay $8 to watch the show on the airplane Wi-Fi is because we have guests like Ron Calzone, who is a hero of liberty here in the state of Missouri. He's literally suing our state over the stadium funding bill. God bless Ron. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for suing us. You didn't know, we do stream this show live from Jefferson City, Missouri. That's the state capital of Missouri, where people like Amy J. Ease, where Steffi for Liberty, where John and KC are all from. Are there any more Missouri boys and girls out there? Or what have yous? My Bitcoin cap is from China. No, Ron. Well, yours it may be because you didn't buy the one that I made. Whoops. You didn't like it. I thought it was a cool Bitcoin cap, but InJam didn't seem to agree. We called it the camo coin cap. I designed this especially for InJam 77. He didn't go for it. That's totally fine. No, they come from Canada. The blanks are the source from Canada. And then camo coin, Bitcoin camouflage trucker hat, which I made it because I thought it was cool. I would totally wear it. I've got one ordered. But they come in 3 different types of camouflage. You've got black camo, you've got brown camo, and if you scroll through here, you can see the different colors there on the hat. Yeah, we've got black camo, brown camo, and camo/olive. I went for the olive just because it kind of like matches everything. Really like it. It's embroidered, beautiful Bitcoin logo embroidered on the Bitcoin camouflage trucker hat. If you buy one this morning, it's a good time to do so because that will help to unlock the bonus content. And here's the thing, guys. I'm kind of nervous that we're not going to unlock the bonus content today because I'll tell you, we've got 3 guests, which make it hard. It makes it hard for me to do promos because I'm constantly like flipping between guests. So if you want to see the bonus content today, how do we unlock it? Well, you can either do Rumble Rants or you can do purchases at forlibertyshop.com. So I would go buy a few Bitcoin hats, maybe make a few Rumble Rant donations if you'd like to see the bonus content. At $75 raised, that unlocks the bonus documentary today, which talks about the IRS's shrinkage question that's been going on lately. I was in the pool. And if we hit $100 raised, it's another Defense Against the Dark Arts class. And you guys get to choose between two topics today for your Defense Against the Dark Arts. It is option A, choose your own adventure, the curse of political purity. We'll talk about how to fight back against the curse of political purity, and in a very magical way, the cult of personality, how to fight the cult of personality, the new idolatry. It is a Defense Against the Dark Arts class taught by me, your professor, Snape, Severus Snape. But if you guys want to see that, all we have to do is hit that $100 bonus content mark. And as you can see, all you got to do is buy a few hats, maybe make a few Rumble Rants by the end of the show, and then bada bing, bada boom. You got a very magical Defense Against the Dark Arts class that you get to choose as a choose your own adventure for the end of the show. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about jeans and democracy. So here's the story in case you missed it. Sydney Sweeney, blonde bombshell actress from Euphoria and Anyone But You, did a campaign with American Eagle. And guess what? Some enterprising little digital inquisition intern looked up her voter registration and discovered that she's a registered Republican. The horror. How dare a woman under 30 with a figure from heaven and opinions of her own refuse to get in and chant, yes, queen, slay, universal basic income, like a good little foot soldier, right? She was modeling jeans, not policy, but to the left, simply existing while conservative and white is an act of violence. Yes. Oh, in jam. Sorry, bud. I didn't see what you got it this morning. That's strange. Oh, you're right, Austin, you idiot. Stupid Austin. He did get it. That means that we've raised $32 towards the $75 to $100 bonus content goal. Thank you, sir. Sorry, Jim. I just didn't see it. There's a lot going on. All right, so let's break it down. Here's the Rage Mob playbook here. Step 1, find out someone doesn't toe the progressive line. Right, especially if they're in Hollywood, then you've got to get a perfect formula here. Step 2, screenshot their voter registration. Step 3, tweet, I feel betrayed by someone I've never met I have no compelling interest in and who is on TV. Sometimes they put her in pictures and in advertisements. Step 4, get 30,000 likes on that stupid ass tweet. Little stupid ass tweet. This is the dumbest story ever, says Sammy J.E.'s. Yes. Step 5, pressure the brand to denounce them. Right? American Eagle is watching their stock price soar. Jeans are selling like crazy. Mom jeans just flying out the door this morning. I don't know what's gotten into this generation with these women with their ugly jeans, but they, god dang, the jeans are ugly. What happened to boot cut and a little bit of butt, ladies? Cadillac, blackjack. You know the kind of times you could do a little boot scoot boogie in? You know what I'm talking about? Baby tip, let's go, boot scoot. Get down, turn around, go to town, boot scoot boogie. Now you can't even see their butts in these jeans. Anyways, I don't care. I'm not buying the jeans, and who cares? They're not mad that the left is not mad that Sydney Sweeney said something outrageous, right? They're mad that she didn't say anything at all. She just existed as a white person and happened to register Republican at some point in her life. All right, so that's what it is. She was just minding her own business, looking gorgeous. Another reason, like all the fatty lefties out there are angry at her. She's beautiful. She's white and beautiful. Right, she just was wearing jeans and apparently to register to vote for the wrong team. But that is the true crime in her eyes. So why does this matter? Because I get it. People like Amy J.E.'s and others who are like, Austin, why are you not covering the war in Gaza, the Middle East, or Hamas? Well, you can watch Al Jazeera for that, or I'm sure Ron Paul and the libertarians who are obsessed with foreign policy are doing full breakdowns. And they're showing videos of the bodies and all that kind of stuff. But somebody's got to fight the culture war. Okay, and that's me. But this is not about Sydney Sweeney. Here's why this story is important. This is about a culture where ideological purity is demanded of every public figure, every entertainer, every grocery store clerk with a social media profile has to be a part of spreading the message, right? You can't just be not political. You have to be correct. And by correct, they mean Democrat, right? It's the same curse that poisons academia, that has poisoned sports, and now even, of course, fashion campaigns. It says you're only allowed to succeed if you conform. And if you don't conform, we will destroy you. This is a conversation we've had on this show many times. My brother, Justin Petersen, he's a voice teacher, vocal coach, does a lot of work in the industry, the music industry. And he talks about it all the time, that, you know, he's afraid to talk about being a Republican. He's afraid to come out as a classical liberal, not a leftist liberal communist Zoran Mandani type, right? But I'm saying this with full-throated clarity and confidence in my libertarian views. I don't care if you vote Republican or Democrat, or if you think the Constitution is a MySpace top 8 list. The fact that a young woman is getting digitally tarred and feathered for voting is a disgrace. All right, good for Sydney Sweeney. So she hasn't backed down yet, which I love to see. She has not, to this point at least, issued, and I reserve the right to change my opinion depending on how she behaves. She didn't issue any pathetic, I'm sorry, I made you feel unsafe by having independent thoughts. There's been no Instagram screenshotted mea culpa that doesn't really satisfy the left anyway, because they hate her because of her skin color, not necessarily because she registered as a Republican. That's a terrible crime, but of course her greatest crime is being white. Right. Well, and see, she's so far just kept wearing the jeans, and she hasn't denounced the Republican Party. And you know what, Sydney, if you want a real political home, Sydney, you're welcome. I know you're a big fan of the Wake Up America show. You're welcome on Wake Up America show anytime. We have coffee, memes, freedom of speech. No pitchforks required. All right, folks, now listen up. If you're sick of just tweeting about politics and you want to actually work in politics, I've got something for you. Money. I have money for you. It's not free money. You have to work for it, but it's a lot of money if you're willing to work for it. Visit campaignjobsnow.com/apply, like my buddy Y2 Joe did the other day. He went in and said, hey, Austin from the Wake Up America show sent him, this is Remzo's group, this is Cliff Maloney's group, these are good guys fighting for liberty across the states. If you're sick and tired of saying, I'm not doing anything but tweeting, if you're tired of sitting on your butt and you actually want to get out there in the world and meet people in real life, who knows? Maybe you'll meet your future wife or your husband on the job while you're out there pounding the pavement to spread the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. This website, campaignjobsnow.com/apply, is going to connect passionate patriots like you with real paid positions on campaigns right now. Whether you're looking to knock doors, manage digital ads, or become the next campaign director to some rising star, then the next Thomas Massey, this is your launch pad here. So, and who knows, you might be the next Sydney Sweeney, just with more clipboards and fewer angrier quote tweets. Visit them now, campaignjobsnow.com/apply. Do something that matters in 2025. We haven't unlocked the bonus content yet, so it's commercials for you. Walk the plank of commercials. But you could unlock that sweet, sweet bonus content if you go to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Type in camo coin cap in the search. Get yourself a Bitcoin camouflage trucker hat, just like our boy in Jam 77. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show. We're talking to Mark McCloskey on the For Liberty Network. Booyakasha.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third? Huh.
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs,
and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here, and it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans, just real coffee. Inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. It's nice to see everybody hanging out with us live in the chat this morning. Good morning. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Don't forget to click the like button if you guys haven't yet. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the Wake Up America show's schedule. We've been talking this morning about how great Missouri is. And so we're going to have another great Missourian joining us today. He became a national symbol of standing your ground. 5 years ago, Mark McCloskey and his wife were vilified for defending their home with legally owned firearms. Now, after a long battle, Mark's AR-15 has been returned by the state. He's here to talk about what this moment means for gun owners, for liberty, and for justice. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for getting up so early and joining us today on the show.
No, thanks for having me on, but this is late for me.
That's good. Well, you're our typical demographic for this kind of show. People who have jobs, who get up early, and who want to find out what's going on in the world. I love seeing your article in the New York Post, even, Mark. They're reading about you in New York City. You're being feted across the nation for getting your rights back, but we should have never been here in the first place, right?
Absolutely. You know, all we did was when a mob attacked our house, broke down the gate, stormed in, we stood out in the front of our house with two legally owned weapons. You know, under the Second Amendment and under the Castle Doctrine, we had absolutely every right to do what we did. We held off a mob, two of us, held off a mob of hundreds with just two guns. And that's the beauty of the Second Amendment, and that's the beauty of the Castle Doctrine. The thing that wasn't so beautiful was doing it in a George Soros-controlled city. So they charged my wife and I each with 2 Class E felonies. It would have cost us 4 years in the slammer and our law licenses and our careers and everything else. So, you know, the sordid tale took me 1,847 days to get that gun back. They seized those 2 guns on July the 10th of 2020. The governor pardoned us about a year later. The Court of Appeals, I filed a writ of replevin to get my guns back. Court of Appeals said that the governor's pardon obliterated our convictions, but not our guilt, whatever the hell that means, and that we didn't get our guns back. So we went one further. We then got expunged. Under the expungement statute in Missouri, it's, quote, as if the underlying events never occurred. So we got expunged. By the way, two very prominent criminal defense lawyers in St. Louis said the expungement would never happen and wouldn't work. Don't waste your time. Well, we hired a lawyer that actually had more faith in it than that. Got expunged, filed a new motion for replevin, new action in replevin to get the guns back, saying, now that I've been expunged under the law in Missouri, I've never been arrested. I've never been charged with anything. I've never been convicted of anything. Why the hell do you still have my guns? To which point the city then appealed my expungement, and the Court of Appeals affirmed the expungement on July the 1st. So I filed a new motion, and that was going to be heard last Thursday. Thank God the Missouri legislature and Governor Parson, or Governor Kehoe, I guess it was this term, took control of the St. Louis City Police Department again. And so instead of being in the hands of the corrupt administration of the city, St. Louis Metropolitan Police is now part of the, controlled by the state government. And so they agreed to give me my rifle back last Thursday. And I thought that'd be fine. I went down to the police station afterwards with the order from the court saying, thou must return Mr. McCloskey's AR-15 instanter, which means right stinking now. And I take it down to the lady behind the glass at the police headquarters. She said, oh, we don't have any property here. You got to go down to 59th Street to the property division. So I get down to the 59th Street property division. You can't even get in there. There's nothing on the door that even says St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. Nobody answers the buzzer when you hit it. I got a sergeant on the phone who, by the way, was very pleasant. But he said, this is what you need to do. You need to fill out our forms. You got to have an affidavit. You got to get it notarized. You got to send it in. And the form itself says that once you file all the paperwork, it's going to be reviewed by a variety of different departments of the city of St. Louis, and it will take a very long time. I said, no effing way in how. I got a court order that says right stinking now, okay? And so they go back and forth. They say, we got to talk to legal. I said, okay, give me the number for legal. Let me talk to him, right? So they gave me a number for the city councilor's office. Well, the city councilor's office was at that hearing this morning, and they no longer have anything to do with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police because it's now controlled by the state. But I call up that assistant city councilor, and I say, the police department wants you to authorize this. And he says, I don't have anything to do with the police department anymore. I said, I know that. You know that. They don't know that. Would you call them up and tell them that you're no longer their lawyers? No. Talk to the Attorney General's office about that. So I call up the Attorney General's office again, and I get everybody says, okay, everybody's been contacted. So then I get a very nice call from a very nice policeman down at the property office saying, come on down, pick it up. So I did on Friday. But the bottom line is, you got to, it said on all my campaign material when I was running for Senate, never back down. And that's the thing, you just got to, no matter what it is, if it's a toothpick they took from you wrongfully, you got to fight it to the death.
Mark, I've always admired you, man. Ever since I found out who you were, when I saw those photographs, those dramatic photographs that day, I was like, I'd never been prouder to be a Missourian and prouder to be an American. And to see you winning at the end of the day, you would have.
There it is with the evidence sticker on it.
There it is. Look at that. Beautiful. Well, I'm real proud of you, Mark. I'm glad to see it. But, talk about the local level here because, obviously we're lucky enough to live in Missouri where we have gun rights, but it does go to show how important it is to be fighting for liberty and fighting for your first and second and third and fourth and fifth and all the way to the 10th and more to fight for our rights on the local level, Mark, because the corruption that's happening, it's not necessarily statewide because if you look at a map, it's of the actual county by county, what the Democrats control. They control a very, very tiny amount of this country. And it's an ocean of red counties versus these blue counties. And from them flows nearly all the tyranny in the United States, does it not?
It does. And the bottom line is, well, I'll give you for instance. For instance, my wife and I were down at the Lake of the Ozarks over the weekend. Our alarm goes off in the house, glass breakage alarm. So we call 911 in the city, right? The alarm company does. It took, 2 hours for the city police to show up? If there's actually a false alarm or dog had pulled something off the wall in the kitchen, set off the window breakage alarm. But I mean, when you need a cop in a second, you've got one in 2 hours in the city of St. Louis. But more importantly, what the government wants is defenseless, frightened population, because a defenseless, frightened population will always ask somebody else for help, in this case, the government. If people had actual freedom, if people were armed and self-reliant, we wouldn't need government, and the government knows that. And that's why they want to keep you unarmed and dependent. And, if you drive across the river from where I live, and I've got a, concealed carry, but it doesn't work in Illinois. I got to lock the pistol in one part of the car with a magazine locked in another part of the car. And even then, they probably want to find some BS reason to put me in prison. I mean, Governor Pritzker has really created a People's Republic of Illinois, just, a quarter of a mile from where I live. And it's just ridiculous. It's supposed to be the United States of America, and yet we have a very ununited States of America. We have, as you mentioned, the coastal elite that think they know better than us on every topic, and have the ability to impose their will. Although right now in the state of Texas, I think at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to get 5 new Republican seats in Texas, which may help with the balance of power a little bit. But I mean, the bottom line is that the vast majority of Americans are folks like you and me that believe in their personal liberty, believe in working hard and achieving. And it's a very, very small number of people that control the big cities.
Mark, isn't it a shame that you even had to pull out your rifle like that you had to feel fear? I mean, what is it exactly that we're paying taxes for? And how has St. Louis gotten to be? I'm watching people in the chat right now talking about St. Louis, and everybody's saying, never stop in St. Louis, never stop in East St. Louis, avoid the city like the plague. I mean, that is a once great American city. There are still aspects of St. Louis that people talk of fondly. I'm not personally a fan of Prevel. I'm from KC. I'm more of a Royals guy. I hope you don't hold it against me. I know that there are some positive aspects of St. Louis, but man, nobody really around the country talks about St. Louis with any love or with any respect. It's a damn shame that you had to even pull the rifle. So what do you attribute the fall of this once great city, and how can it be revitalized or restored?
We've not had a Republican administration in the city of St. Louis since 1949. I was born in 56. In 1956, the population of St. Louis, the city of St. Louis, was about 850,000. At the last census, 275,000 people, right? That's what having a single party state in the city of St. Louis has done during my lifetime. Bernie Carrick, the recently deceased friend of ours, Bernie Carrick, and I were having a conversation one day comparing New York City to St. Louis. Most people think New York City is kind of a dangerous place, but that year New York City had 8,400,000 residents. They'd had about 300 murders. City of St. Louis with 283,000 residents, we'd had 256 murders, right? Almost 20 times the murder rate of New York City. And the government of St. Louis thinks that's just fine, right? What they want to do is hand out automobile registrations to people that they say aren't smart enough to figure out how to register their cars or get them insured, while murders taking place left and right. We had this thing in New York City the other day where some lunatic walked in and shot 4 people. Well, that's nightly news in St. Louis, except it doesn't make the news because it's just life as it is in St. Louis. And there are some nice things in St. Louis. I'll get on my political high horse here. Everybody says you got to have a city center, a city core, right? Well, the city of St. Louis's core is a rotten apple core. I mean, it is a dangerous, dirty, disgusting place to go. There's bums crashed out all over the place, people urinating on the walls. I had to go down to the courthouse, yesterday or last Friday, and I wonder how often the cops check on the bodies laying down on the ground and on the benches to check for pulses to see who's dead and who's just passed out from drugs. But I mean, do you really want to take your kids to the ball game when they got to walk past that? I mean, this isn't America. This is some third world disgusting nation. Every major city in America has got a third world country in its downtown area. And yet that's where the federal dollars are funneled. That's where the billions of dollars are spent. And what has it accomplished? Has it made the city safer? Has it made the cities cleaner? Has it made our lives better? Nah, it's a way of taking federal money, putting it in the hands of the friends of the government, and then making the city as dependent upon government as humanly possible. I can't remember the numbers, but out of the 6,000 or so buildings that were destroyed in the tornado in North St. Louis here recently, 2,000 of them are owned by the city of St. Louis. I mean, 10,000 buildings, 10,000 homes in North St. Louis are owned by the St. Louis city government. That's what single party rule has accomplished since 1949.
It's a shame. Mark McCloskey, we're speaking to Mark McCloskey this morning, hero of the Second Amendment, native Missourian, talking about how he got his gun back. Would you do anything differently if you had to relive 2020, or do you think that you handled things, exactly to code, if you will?
Well, the only thing I would have done differently was I would have been at the gate instead of on my porch to keep them from breaking that gate down and storming it. I mean, they ignored 3 no trespassing signs and broke down a 130-year-old wrought iron gate to get in. If I'd have been at that gate wouldn't have gotten broken.
Mark, last question for you before we let you go. You've been so generous with your time. Any plans to commemorate the return, maybe like a range day with Tucker Carlson or anything?
I'd love that. We're both left-handed shooters, so that'd be good. I'll put in a plug for what I'm currently doing now.
Tell us what you're up to these days, Mark.
I'm now representing hundreds of J6 political prisoners and compensation claims. So if there's any J6 political prisoners out there that would like to join on board, you can call me. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 314-580-3185, or you can catch me McCloskey USA on X. My office email is McCloskeylaw@AOL.com. You can see how long that's been my email, McCloskeylaw@AOL.com. The more the merrier. You guys have been royally screwed by the government, and we need to get some compensation.
Mark McCloskey, he's on your side. He's not an ambulance chaser. He is the real deal, American patriot, and we're so glad to have him on our side. Hey, Mark, have a wonderful day. Thanks for all you and your wife do to fight for liberty here in St. Louis and across the country. We know a few January 6ers over here. We'll definitely send them your way. You have a wonderful day.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Austin.
Thank you very much. Mark McCloskey.
All right, so I hear that Amazon is going to put a number next to the price of a product on their website to designate how much the tariff is of whatever you're buying on their website. At Montana Knife Company, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a number next to the price as well. And that number is going to look a lot like the shape of this goose egg. Well, it's a chicken egg because I didn't have a goose. But anyway, this is the shape of the number that's going to be on our website next to our knives of how much tariff affects the prices of our knives, because we've been preaching this all along. We're American made, buy American. You don't have to worry about this shit. Also, that is actually chicken shit on this egg, because we also raise our own chickens. But anyway, I digress. Buy American, make American made, and you don't have to worry about this shit.
There you go. And don't forget they Turker gerbs. Here that was before. Now let's hear him after. Now that the Buy American business is in trouble.
All right, for those of you that say buy American made equipment, the tariffs won't affect you. This is American made heat treating furnaces. July 17th, 2024, base price $519. July 23rd, 2025, base price $612.
Woo! That's pricey.
The thermocouple interface upgrade.
There goes all your profitability.
$14,900, $16,700. The loader $10,200. The loader $11,400.
Wow.
2 1,000-gallon tanks. Gas backup reservoirs $39,400. $44,300.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Spare parts kit, same stuff, $18,100, $20,400. So this is my point, and this is what I'm getting at. We're trying to build American manufacturing. This is American-made equipment, 100% made in America.
Oh no, it's not. Did you say 100% made in America, sir? Then what is your problem, sir?
This stuff has an effect. Again, I'm questioning why is the cost of equipment to manufacture in America going up that drastically in 1 year.
Well, I wonder.
I'm not hating on the Trump administration. Again, I'm trying to point out.
You better not hate on the Trump administration, sir, or you will become an America-hating commie.
Hating on the Trump administration. Again, I'm trying to point out that their policies need some adjustments. We should be focusing on finished goods coming in from overseas. We shouldn't be making the cost to buy equipment made in America for American manufacturers go up by this amount of money. $100,000 on the base price in 1 year.
There you go. $100,000 on the base price in 1 year. Oh. Remember when he was saying just buy American? It's almost as if only economists had done any studies on the effects of tariffs. If the economists had left like 100 years, a giant body of research, if only economists had done their homework on this one and had really plugged in the numbers and done all the math and then produced a body of evidence of research to show to the American people that something like this was going to happen. If only someone had warned us. If only someone had told us that this is what was going to happen. Austin, your sarcasm. Are you picking up on your sarcasm? You should be, because I'm laying it on pretty damn thick. Thomas Massey probably just looked at that video and laughed, says, why too, Joe? John and KC says, making everything in the U.S. means everything will cost more anyway because you have to pay higher wages to get people to work if you don't want to hire illegals. Womp, womp. A better world can exist. So I say, what then? Just buy American, right? If you don't want to have to pay those tariffs, just buy American-made materials. Are you guys watching the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson feud that's going on over on the internet? It's so juicy right now. Nick Fuentes actually cooked Tucker Carlson the other day. I thought it was pretty funny, actually, what Nick was saying. It's like a 7-minute monologue. I don't have time to play it all right now, but it was in response to this.
Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago.
In Chicago? No, not Chicago. The only thing worse than St. Louis is Chicago. Yeah, I have to say, I think he actually nailed Tucker, but what do you think? This wasn't it, but
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right?
Yeah, it's time for us to grow up and love Hitler. Does not compute. I thought I had the Fuentes video for you where, I do have a few minutes I can play it for you. Oh, speaking of St. Louis, did you guys see this guy? This is talking about something that really matters. The guy with the MAGA hat that got kicked out of the soccer game in St. Louis. Did you see this?
No, I just want to make sure I can see this. Yeah, what's up? I'm Michael Weitzel. I'm being asked to leave by the police because of Donald Trump. Hey, I'm a Donald Trump. You're a Trump fan? Yes, I am.
I was going to say, the security guards there are probably like dudes, so they're very likely to be Donald Trump voters. They're just doing their jobs. That's what the Nazis said, Austin. Okay, well, now you think you guys that we should love Hitler, so you should be loving the Hitler guys taken out. You wanted fascism? You got it, bitch.
You got to deal with them, Megan. But they don't do non-political. They don't want any kind of political. So those flags over there, those are pre-approved. Those flags over there, those aren't political. So my question to you guys is,
got a good point there.
Are rules equally enforced on everybody? Here's my question to you.
Are they equally enforced on everybody? Absolutely not. You see those pride flags over there, the gay pride flags they got hanging up there? That's
those flags over there, those aren't political. So my question to you guys is, are these rules equally enforced on everybody? Here's my question to you. And the only way I can do that is if I enforce it with you. Or you just go out and handcuff. So I'm being threatened with arrest. Why am I breaking? What am I?
You're being trespassed. Welcome to private property land, brother. This is America.
Am I being evicted from the premises? You're going to be evicted from the premises. You want to make a big... We're going to walk up. I'm being evicted from the premises because of Donald Trump. Because we can't wear Donald Trump hats in public. And so now I'm being evicted from the premises. We need a...
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
This is America. This is America. Hey, who wants to hear Jon Miltimore and I bitch about tariffs some more, right? Yeah? No, you don't? Well, too bad. Now you got to watch commercials too because you haven't unlocked that bonus content, guys. Get in them Rumble Rants. Go to forlibertyshop.com, hit the Griff Shop, get yourself a camouflage hat with a Bitcoin on it because it's cool. And we'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show, and you watching that For Liberty Network. Right back.
Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Imagine. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third?
All right, so I hear that Amazon is going to put a number next to the price of a product on their website to designate how much the tariff is of whatever you're buying on their website. At Montana Knife Company, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a number next to the price as well. And that number is going to look a lot like the shape of this goose egg. Well, it's a chicken egg because I didn't.
The goose egg, replace the goose egg with what he thought the tariffs were going to be, but it was a chicken egg. He thought he was getting a goose egg, but it was a chicken egg instead. Womp womp. Let's F around and find out. Good morning, pineapples. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. That was the owner of the Montana Knife Company, who realized that tariffs may not be a good thing for his business. He told everyone else to buy American, and then he realizes that the price of manufacturing things in the United States go up. Here to join us to dance on the grave of big government supporters. No, he would never do something like that. He would be very generous. I would be the asshole. The next guy I bring in to play good guy libertarian to my bad guy libertarian is Jon Miltimore. John boy.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Are you all right? Are you going to be nice, or is it? Do I have to shit all over this guy on my own?
I'll try to be nice. Look, I get it. A lot of people are surprised that American, business owners don't realize how much stuff they import. And this idea that we can simply buy American and, hey, we'll buy this product. This is an American company. We'll buy it from there. Tariffs won't affect us. People are realizing that is not true because we import from all over the country. Even if it's not goods, we're importing things like aluminum and steel and copper and everything else. And these tariffs are having an effect on that. So these people that produce stuff are seeing their costs go up. And this is exactly what 1,000 economists have been warning about for the last several months.
John, it's a situation where we find ourselves having to suffer the consequences of bad policies over and over again. While it's history, we're doomed, we're repeating it. I voted for Donald Trump. I knew that the tariffs were going to be a bad thing, and here we are looking at this story where Trump is literally firing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because she told him the truth. Manufacturing jobs are down, and there's a direct line that we can see. It's kind of like that. I don't know if you've ever seen that video of the guy where it's like, somebody's banana mobile crashed into a guy and he's wearing the banana suit and he's like, we're all trying to find out who did this. And it's kind of obvious who did this.
It's frightening, this is one of those things. We've heard it over and over, like, Trump's turning America into a banana republic. A lot of times that rhetoric is hyperbolic. That's not the case here. When you start firing the heads of departments that are giving you economic data you don't like, it's really scary stuff. And this is actually, it's not just dangerous. This is going to do Trump a lot of damage because next jobs report he gets, like, maybe it's a good one. Okay. Maybe people are adjusting to tariffs. Maybe he gets a good jobs report. People aren't going to trust it. You can't just fire someone when they give you a bad jobs report and then hire someone you like and put him in there. People won't trust that data. And here's the thing about these BLS reports, like for years, they've been improving, like they're never, you always have corrections, but we have very good data on this. And over the last decade or two, they're getting better and better and better. Sometimes they go against a Republican president. Sometimes they go against a Democratic president. But this data is good. These are not partisan agencies. So Trump's really shooting himself in the foot here. I think one of the problems is he, as president, has surrounded himself with people who are yes men. So even people in his inner circle can't say, Donald, Mr. President, this is a bad idea. I don't think we should do this. He's just freewheeling now and not getting that sort of feedback from people that are going to keep him out of trouble.
So Trump fires the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, ostensibly for not giving him the data that makes him look good. But I mean, if you get somebody in there, is it possible to massage the data for the next jobs report? How could you possibly pull the wool over people's eyes? If the measurement statistics, we can all check that, can't we? What's going to change from one person who's a numbers pusher, cruncher to the next numbers cruncher? Could they pull some kind of Soviet style, like, Baghdad Bob, everything's fine statistics out of their butt for this?
I don't think so. And even let's go back to the one that was just fired. So the director of BLS doesn't even know the data until about 48 hours before it goes out. And so the idea that the director might have saw data in the last minute, they're going to go and readjust all of this to hurt Trump is really preposterous. Now, that said, will Trump be able to massage it in a good way for himself? I don't think so, because I don't think Trump is going to get that involved with this data at that granular level. And I don't think the next person, whoever it is going to risk professional suicide by trying to tweak these numbers into Trump's favor.
Boy, do I ever disagree with that. There's nothing I've seen more than people willing to commit professional suicide in the last several years.
I mean, you might be right, but this is if you start, we have decades of this, formulas that have been produced, and if you start tinkering with that in ways to like that, that'll be, again, maybe this is just me predicting. I think maybe I have too high an opinion of the professional class. I don't think professional economists will want to do that. But what is it going to be? The next guy who does get a bad jobs report, who's at BLS, says, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How is the president going to react to this?" This is the stuff, like if you watch, it reminded me of Der Untergang, right? That the movie with Hitler, his generals were afraid to give him any bad feedback on the war because he was going to go ballistic, and they couldn't really control what was happening on the Eastern Front, but they were terrified to give
that Hitler
bad news.
It's that Hitler video from Downfall where he's like screaming in German.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love all the remixes of that video. John, if you were advising Trump, what would you tell him to do?
Oh boy! At first, the first thing I'd say is, correct your mistake as far as firing this BLS. Again, that ship has sailed. I don't think there's any way to do that. I think he needs to get away from these protectionist policies. He needs to try to stop trying to use trade as a weapon against other countries. As far as tariffs, there's a quote. I think conservatives love this quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I think it was Winston Churchill that said, "Trying to tax yourself into prosperity is like a man trying to lift himself in a bucket," right? And his point was, you can't tax yourself into prosperity. Well, that's what we're trying to do right now with tariffs. And it applies to tariffs as much as taxes. We're not going to make ourselves as a country wealthy by having these steep protectionist policies. But what's fascinating to me is you have conservatives on Twitter. I say conservatives, but they're all celebrating like, oh, the government just brought in $60 billion this month in tariff revenue. But as we're seeing, as the guy in the knife shop in Montana is seeing, it's us that are bearing the burden for that. It's consumers, it's businesses. This isn't going to make us wealthier. Although to a certain degree, the government's coffers will swell. Yeah, well,
the guy in the Montana Knife Company video was saying that you shouldn't be taxing our unfinished goods that we use to manufacture. You should be taxing finished goods.
Tariffs on thee, not on me.
Yeah,
the mentality.
Which, if I were a Chinese manufacturer, I would just manufacture something and then like have it so that you had to like rivet on a couple of rivets and then boom, it's completed, right? There's so many. Every time the government creates a law to stop free trade, there's always a million end runs around it if you can afford to pay the tariff or if you can afford to get around it, right?
No, exactly. Like even the bureaucrats couldn't come up with a tariff policy that actually worked the way that everyone wants. You could say like, okay, well, we're not going to, have a tariff on aluminum. We're just going to have, on parts. Well, guess what? Like all of those parts, people don't realize all the parts that you're buying, it's not about just importing raw materials. People get stuff from all over the world. The guy, he might have, people in America that supply him, and he doesn't realize that the people building that stuff are actually importing parts as well. No, you're not going to make yourself as a country wealthy by having, 25%, 30% tariffs. And it's not offering the protection either. What we're seeing more and more of that. This is bad policy. I just never thought I'd see the day where any president would get Republicans to applaud $1 trillion tax increase, and that's really what this amounts to.
John, any strong feelings about the Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens feud?
I'm honestly not even aware of this feud, so
Good
you'll have
for
to
you,
enlighten me.
John. You know, every time I turn around, you're like doing some outdoorsy thing with your family or taking them to the park or doing something normal. We could all stand to learn a lesson from Jon Miltimore. He touches grass.
I try to, like there's so many squabbles going on the political right now. One can't even if I was interested, I probably couldn't keep track of it all. So what's going on here? Is Tucker?
Tucker Carlson is calling him a little gay kid, and that he's out of line. And Candace Owens is flaming Nick Fuentes, and Fuentes kind of cooked them both actually. Yesterday, I got to say, I watched the 7-minute video, longest clip I've ever watched of Nick Fuentes, where he was just taking Tucker Carlson down. But for his dad's ties to the CIA and him being back in the day being this Ivy League guy, and they're shitting all over the basement dwellers, even though that was the demographic that Trump was supposed to be lifting up in this country, and that Nick is the demographic, and he was kind of right. I don't know. They're just all it's Groyper Civil War, and it's if you're like me and you're terminating online, it's very much a popcorn. Popping, kind of like watching with your 3D glasses, kind of like.
Here's the thing: there is a larger point with all this, and if you look at the last 4 years, I think Republicans, conservatives, independents were so frightened and so sick of what the left was doing, like they had to go, right, and that was the mentality, anything but them, and I think that had because so many people feel that way, and because Democrats are so unpopular, Trump can do almost anything now. And nobody seems to care because at least he's not them. And so what I think we're seeing on the right, you're seeing all of these people that are soaking up oxygen and attacking one another, and now you have, I think, kind of like the sane libertarians and sane small government conservatives and classical liberals. There's really no place on the right for them either, in where a lot of these where some of the right is going, and it makes us feel, I think, kind of like the odd man out, like we just wanted things to go back to normal over that 4 years following COVID and during COVID, and now the right is turning crazy on all these issues and eating itself.
That's what happens whenever you get power. Yeah. As soon as you get power, you start to eat it up, and you get the hubris starts to get you, the pride that goeth before the fall. John, does Sydney Sweeney have great genes?
I love Sydney Sweeney's jeans. I think she has fabulous jeans. That I didn't miss. I think you would have to be on Mars to miss that.
We know. What do you mean? You don't watch the gay Mexican kid in his basement fighting with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens? You watch the hot blonde with the denim jeans ads instead? Sean.
Amen. Hey, I'm not. If I'm going to follow the gossip, at least it's going to be gossip. That involves Sydney Sweeney.
You're a good man.
It was kind of fun to see. It's crazy. Like I'll say this: as a country, we're $37 trillion in debt. We're spending more every day. If you look over the 10 years, it's going to be 50 trillion. And we're arguing about blue jeans and commercials, and it's something to watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's all you have to say about it? You're not going to expand into the question of the racial awareness in the ad of saying that she has great genes, meaning her genetics. I mean, so I've been getting a hit by the Reddit leftists this morning. Actually, somebody responded to the live show saying, "This Wake Up America, more like wake up white people. I know a dog whistle when I see one." John, we're both white guys. Krugger Dooning over on Twitter this morning says that they're inferring you're a white supremacist. John, how do you respond?
I mean, that's kind of what they've been up to for about 10 or 15 years. A lot of the Bolsheviks on the left, they're obsessed with race in a way that most people aren't. They made a pun in a blue jeans ad, and all hell, broke loose because of it. It's pretty bizarre to watch. But let's be honest for a minute. We kind of went through this place for 10 years where the commercials changed a lot, and you didn't see blonde-haired, blue blue-eyed people, and people didn't notice. And now you kind of put out a Sydney Sweeney, and you kind of make a jeans pun, and the backlash was something to watch. People are like, no, you can't do it that way. And they're very serious about it. Like American Eagle was having fun, and they got a pretty girl to do an ad, and the ad worked magnificently, by the way.
But she's a Republican, which is her even worse.
I didn't know
crime.
that. I saw that. I had no idea that was even true. But it's, you know, like commercials are now politicized. Everything in this country is politicized, and that is not healthy for anyone. Like that's just, you know, somebody had a tweet, and I retweeted. I think it was Jay Richards I think he's at the Heritage Foundation, and it was of Rolling Stone, and it was just Rolling Stone doing a deep dive investigation on IVF or something like this, and it made me think. Like, remember when Rolling Stone used to do music journalism?
Oh,
and
God, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, before it was all just attacking Republicans.
And it's not just them. You go to the Atlantic, and they're going to have 6 Trump stories. And I'm like, what happened to art and culture and like things that actually enriched our lives? Now it's all politics, and it doesn't matter if it's a music, you know, journalism publication, or in arts and literature, or movies or whatever. It's all politics, and it doesn't help anyone. Politics is you know, squabbling. This obsession with it, but this is the stakes. When you give a government this much power over our lives, I think that's the result. People are going to endlessly complain about politics and fight over politics instead of, you know, pursuing the richer things in life.
So what's your advice to people? What should they do, John? I mean, their rights are eroding. You're saying, you know, politics is taking over too much time. I kind of think almost the opposite, that we kind of need more people involved in the quest that you and I are engaged in, which is to expand the sphere of individual liberty and individualism versus collectivism around the world. And you're kind of saying detach in some sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's healthier for the individual not to be consumed with this. And in Austin, you probably know people in your personal life. I see people who are just way too worried about this, and it affects their health. They're consuming nothing but scary media. To your point, these are serious issues, but you can't let it affect your personal life to that degree. And as far as what we should do, I think fighting for meaningful change instead of fighting over, like, you know, the political story of the day. I think we need to fight for constitutional changes, things like a balanced budget amendment, things like that can actually have lasting impact. You know, is that a big fight? Yes, but I think we need to come up with better tactics and longer lasting tactics. Things that will actually, you know, curb the power of government over our lives, instead of putting, you know, hoping that'll be George W. Bush or Donald Trump will have a budget that does it. No, we need meaningful constraints, which is what the Constitution was, by the way, right? When the founders created this Constitution, it said everything that government can't do. Okay. And then it gave you a constitution of very limited, you know, scope of powers of the government. But that over time has eroded. But that we need to fight for those kind of constraints. That is the only thing that can really, I think, you know, lead to a correction and curb the government abuses we've seen from both parties, by the way, over the last 15, 20 years.
Love to hear it, John. It definitely gives me something to think about. And, you know, it makes me feel like I really need to maybe spend a little less time watching Nick Fuentes rage against Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and maybe a little more time with my baby hanging out in the grass. Although we got a lot of sugar bites over the weekend hanging out and touching grass. So watch out for that. John, anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go today, sir?
No, just make sure to visit my Substack at The Take by Jon Miltimore. Is that a good pitch?
No,
there,
it's a terrible
Austin?
pitch, John. You got to sell us on it. Why should we go to The Take by Jon Miltimore? Substack?
I just don't like plugging my stuff that much. I write there every week, and you know, it's some of my more personal takes. Some of it's on economics, some of it's on movies I'm watching.
What's been your biggest hit article that you've written recently?
You know, it wasn't. I'm going to go back. The most read article I had two. One was on the one we talked about recently about Gen X giving the election to Trump, which got massive traffic. But it was right after the election, and people were trying to figure things out. And I looked at the data, and Gen X did swing towards Trump in massive numbers, and there was a good story to tell there. And my personal favorite, one that has done really well and got a lot of paid subscriptions even, is something a the Never-Ending Story. Like it's a movie I've seen probably 50 times. My kids love it. I like it. I just actually bought the book recently. And
now I
explain what the nothing is. Yeah, like I go into as a kid, I remember like, what the hell is the nothing? Like what? But I think it's very clear what the nothing is, and I talk about it. I break it down what the nothing is and what it means. And if you want to go find out, you can find it on my Substack, The Take by Jon Miltimore.
Now I have to read the Never-Ending Story Substack. See, now I got to subscribe, John, and this is how you do a plug. Thank you very much, John, for doing Mondays with Miltimore with us and putting up with my BS. We'll see.
Hey, great being with you, Austin.
We'll see you next Monday. Have a great week.
All right, you too, man.
I think that people should be allowed to have differing views on immigration. I think people should be allowed to point out the fact that there is an Israeli lobby, and yes, it's powerful, and debate the merits of that, I guess. I don't think there's, strictly speaking, anything wrong with that. But again, I think Pat Buchanan is part of the reason it's so hard to have that conversation, because he discredits it by his presence, because he gives people who watch him carefully the sense that he has another agenda that has to do with personal dislike, and that he believes in conspiracies, and that he believes that the Jews are this sinister, secretly organized force trying to affect American politics. And those aren't discussions I think normal people, sober people should be having, because I think they're ludicrous.
Anyway, like, who is this kid exactly? And maybe it's just an accident that the guy exclusively goes after people who are in the same, roughly the same. And then he gets up there and he's like, making Holocaust jokes. And it's like, is it possible that this is like David Duke? David Duke, every time I had a new show, David Duke would endorse my show. I don't know. Who the hell is David Duke? Well, David Duke is obviously part of a campaign to discredit people on the right, obviously. And I think it's very obvious that Nick Fuentes is exactly the same. Doesn't mean everything he says is false. It doesn't mean he's not talented. He's enormously talented. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I'm not attacking him personally, but he is clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices. That's obvious to me. I've been around.
That's interesting. Oh, no. Interesting little juxtaposition that they had there on that little discussion. What did I have another clip for that? I act like I'm talking to my producer when the whole time the producer was really just me. I don't know. The clip is somewhere else. Quest Fanning says, at this point, when someone calls me racist, all I hear is the Peanuts teacher on the phone voice. We've raised $36 towards the $75 to $100 bonus goal today. I don't know if you guys are going to unlock that bonus content, guys. Don't let it happen. See, I said we were going to kind of struggle because while I'm interviewing fantastic guests, I'm definitely earning the bonus content, but I'm not asking for it. So I have to remind you guys to keep those Rumble Rants coming, just like our friend Quest Fanning did. We've raised $36, I think, towards the $75 goal, which will unlock our bonus mini documentary. And if we manage to hit $100, which looks like it'd be a miracle by the end of the show at 9 a.m. Central today, then that will unlock the Choose Your Own Adventure Defense Against the Dark Arts class here. And if we don't unlock it, they both go away forever. So get those Rumble Rants in or go to the Liberty Shop. We've got a new product that we created called the Camo Coin Bitcoin Camouflage Trucker Hat. Comes in 3 colors: camo black, camo brown, and camo olive. It comes in any color you want as long as it's black. Just kidding. As long as it's camo. It's embroidered, beautiful Bitcoin logo on there. $36 is what we've raised so far, so head on over and get yourself a Bitcoin cap. We'll be very close with one more purchase of one more hat to unlocking that bonus content today on the show. We've still got one more guest to go, Ron Calzone. Don't miss it. He's going to be around to talk about why he's suing me. And if you live in Missouri, he's suing you too. No, don't boo. I've seen what makes you cheer. But he's suing the state of Missouri over stadium funds. He says that the bill that passed that would require people like me who don't go to the games to have to pay for stadiums. We're going to talk about that when we get back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third?
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Imagine, patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit 4libertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to 4libertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's 4libertyshop.com. This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network. It's nice to see you. If today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, I hope that you'll become a regular guest if you're enjoying the content. It's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the show's schedule. It's a 2-hour tour de force of everything that's happening in the world of freedom. You're going to get introduced to guests you may have never heard before that are out there doing the yeoman's work of fighting for liberty, and you'll hear lots of national names as well. Today, it's been a very Missouri-centric show. Earlier on the show today, we talked about Mark McCloskey, who got his AR-15 back from the government in the city of St. Louis. Congratulations to Mr. McCloskey. And we've got another excellent Missouri hero of liberty for you here today. His name is Ron Calzone, and he's suing me and you. No, everybody here who's in the state of Missouri is getting sued this morning by this guy. You would think, oh, well, you know, let's give this guy some booze. But we don't want to give this guy some booze. We're glad that we're being sued by my next guest, Ron Calzone, joining us now live here on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Ron. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Austin. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you here. So Missouri taxpayers being asked to bankroll billion-dollar stadiums. You're taking it to court. You're suing the state of Missouri over what you call an illegal stadium funding scheme. So tell us why you're challenging this sweetheart deal.
Well, you know, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that this is about the stadiums per se. The stadiums in Kansas City are actually owned by the Jefferson County Sports Authority. They're publicly owned. And I don't have a problem with publicly funding publicly owned facilities, but that's not the whole story. First of all, these public facilities are really pretty much exclusively for the use of two major sports franchises, one football, one baseball. But Senate Bill 3 that was passed in a special session just a few weeks ago is not just about funding these publicly owned facilities. Expressly in the bill, it says that the subsidies can be used for the privately owned facilities, including the headquarters and the training facilities for these big sports franchises that are owned by multi-billionaires. So it's incredibly an anti-free market kind of bill. But that's still not the reason that the Article 3 Institute is involved in this case. And that's not the reason that I'm the plaintiff in this case. Now, these lawsuits are expensive. And if you're going to go through one of these endeavors, you've got to have a really, I think, big principled reason to do it if you don't have a financial stake at it. And I have no financial stake. The fact of the matter is that this is yet another time the Missouri General Assembly is just thumbing its nose at the Missouri Constitution, which says a few things that are violated by this bill. For one, it says you can only have one subject per bill. Since 1865, we've only allowed one subject per bill constitutionally. They ignore it regularly. And you can only have one purpose of the bill, and that purpose cannot change throughout the legislative process. And on top of that, you can't pass local or special laws. So you can't have a law that's targeted at just one locality or just one person or one group of people. It's got to be a law that's generally applicable. The general welfare clause in both the U.S. and the Missouri Constitution is not about social welfare. It's about saying that the government has to be doing things that are generally good for everybody, not special interests. And then on top of that, we have a clause, Article 3, Section 38A, that says you can't give public money to private entities, which is really at the core of this bill. And in multiple ways, this bill is giving public money out of our treasury directly to private individuals or private companies. So that's really what's wrong. The problem with this bill is the fact that the General Assembly is ignoring the Constitution, and this is an attempt to rein them in.
I don't even go as far as you, Ron. I don't even think that public funds ought to be appropriated for public stadiums. I think that things like that always ought to be funded by the communities of the people who want to see these things happen. And, I'm not necessarily a big sports fan, so I kind of resent being taxed to pay for stadiums and for public works of things of which I will never use, right? Nobody pays for my Xbox, so I don't feel like I should be paying for people's soccer stadiums. Nevertheless, what's your response to people who say that it's worth it to keep these teams in Missouri? They were threatening us to go take their business and go to the state of Kansas. How would you respond to somebody who says that we don't want to lose all of the goodies, all of the extra financial benefit that we get from the jerseys and from the money on hot dogs and all the beer that's being sold at the local Phillips 66 to go to the tailgate parties happening here in Missouri? How would you respond to somebody who says, well, it's worth it because we're keeping these teams in Missouri?
Well, the first thing I would say is that if you think that it's appropriate to do those sort of things, change the Constitution, because the Constitution doesn't permit it. It's prohibited by the Constitution. No, so if we're going to talk about the value of a constitutional amendment that would allow the General Assembly to do those things, I would say it's a bad idea. And it's a bad idea because the free market always works better than tinkering by central planners. And so, I mean, if you look at some of their arguments, they're saying, we don't want the Chiefs or the Royals to move 10 miles across the border into Kansas because we're going to lose all these jobs. We're going to lose all the economic activity. The people that come to ball games and they stay at motels and they eat at restaurants, well, they're going to eat at the same restaurants, whether they drive 5 miles across the border or not. The same people that work for the Royals now will work for the Royals if they move to Kansas. The same people that work for, most of those economic indicators will remain the same. Now, that probably is not true if they move halfway across the country. To that, I would say, the money that people have earmarked for entertainment, like going to a ball game, they'll spend some other way. They'll spend some other way in the economy. And there's been study after study after study that indicates that having a major league sports team in your city does not necessarily promote economic activity. So none of that's proven. Certainly not proven well enough to ignore the Constitution.
We're speaking to an activist for liberty in the state of Missouri. He's suing the state of Missouri over the taxpayer-funded, billionaire-backed sports stadiums bill that passed here in Missouri, was signed by our governor, Mike Kehoe. If you're successful, Ron, what precedent could your case set for future taxpayer-funded sports subsidies?
Well, understand that a big part of this bill are tax credits. There's 3 or 4 different ways that tax credits are employed to convey public largesse to private entities. Tax credits were found to be unconstitutional in a case back in the 1980s called Kirchen. And they just said, basically, you have Article 3, Section 38A, and you also have Article 3, Section 39, Subdivision 5, that prohibit those kind of things. And that's what they found back in this case back in the 1980s. And so you would think that all of these tax credits, which amount to about $1 billion a year, you would think it would be easy to knock them out in court. But the fact of the matter is that it's been hard for anybody to get them to court, because another case called the Manzera case, some years later, said that you can't have taxpayer standing to challenge them. So the constitutionality of tax credits hasn't been challenged since the 1980s, and it's because nobody can get standing. Well, the General Assembly went a little too far this time, because they did some things with this bill that permits taxpayers standing to challenge the bill. So for the first time since the 80s, we may end up with a Supreme Court ruling that says, well, rules one way or the other, we hope says that tax credits are unconstitutional. That would be a huge, huge precedent to set.
That honestly would be enormous. I don't know that they'll give you that, Ron, just because this state seems to run on tax credits. Lots of states do. And it certainly would be a major victory. And you certainly have our blessing here over at the Wake Up America show. We've got a lot of Missourians who watch this live talk show in the morning, and they're over there in the chat, many of them agreeing with you. Have you faced political pressure or any backlash for taking this stand? I mean, you know how popular the Chiefs are in this state, and in Kansas City, of course, Royals very popular as well. What's been the response on the negative side to this bill? Have you gotten to your fight? I mean, what's been your reaction?
Well, we just filed the lawsuit on Thursday, and so I think it's just a little bit early to see any of the backlash. I do want to mention that the case is styled Moon v. State of Missouri. So the Moon is Senator Mike Moon. And if anybody knows anything about Missouri, how the Missouri General Assembly has been working for the last dozen years, you know that Mike Moon has been the guy that's been on the soapbox screaming bloody murder about these ignoring the Constitution over the single subject and the change purpose requirements. And so Mike is probably going to face more arrows than I am. Who am I? I'm just a citizen activist that likes to sue the state. The third plaintiff in this case is a new rep, and it's a guy named Bryant Wolfen. And Bryant is a freshman rep. He came out swinging. I'm just so impressed with Bryant, and he's probably going to be the one that gets the most backlash, because a senator has power that a rep doesn't have. And sorry about that beep, but if you can hear that in the background, that's my Integrac saying it needs to be fed. It's done.
Tell us, Ron, why do you sue the government so much? What inspires you? Every time I turn around, Ron's filed another lawsuit against the government. Why?
Well, in this case, most of the lawsuits that I filed have been relative to the things that Mike Moon has been talking about so long. The idea that the legislature has to file single subject bills. They've got to stay single subject. It hits at the core of what America is all about. So I believe in the social compact kind of theory for American governance. And, to some extent, there's no arguments against that. But the fact is John Locke was the greatest influence next to the Bible on our founding fathers. And John Locke said that we have we have powers, we have political power, we have rights that are endowed by our creator. Jefferson borrowed from Locke's writing when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And we form governments to protect our liberty, to protect our property, which is all forms of liberty. And we acquiesce to the idea of sending legislators to the seats of government to represent us with the understanding that only things that a majority of them agree on are going to be the things that we will allow to affect our lives and liberty. When you have multiple subject bills, that's not what happens. This bill, Senate Bill 3, would not have passed if it was just about the stadium funding. They had to throw other things in to get enough votes to get a majority. That happens every single year in the General Assembly. We end up with laws that go into effect that by themselves would not have garnered a majority vote of the people that we send up there to represent us. And so we end up with more laws, and we end up with more intrusive laws when we allow them to do what's called log rolling, and to get enough votes to pass an omnibus bill. We see the same thing in Washington, D.C., but they don't have that constitutional limitation.
Ron, I have some sense of where the Supreme Court of the United States stands ideologically of all the justices there, but I can't say the same thing for the Missouri courts. Where do you think your lawsuit goes? I mean, in terms of navigating the quagmire of the Missouri legal system, what's next steps for your lawsuit against this stadium funding bill, and how far could it go? And talk to me a little bit about the ideological makeup of the judges who might hear this case.
I can't tell you anything on an individual level about the ideological makeup of the Supreme Court. Let me back up just a little bit. The way a challenge to the constitutionality of a bill works is go directly to the Supreme Court after the trial court level. So it's possible that within 30 days, it'll be in the hands of the judge, 30 to 40 days, it'll be in the hands of the trial court judge. And then he renders an opinion, and then probably whoever loses is going to appeal to the Missouri Supreme Court. It goes directly to the Missouri Supreme Court. You don't go to a court of appeals. And so this all happens faster than a lot of litigation does. The thing that's interesting to me about them as a collective is in the last couple of years, they have done some things, they have sent some signals that tells us that maybe they're kind of fed up with the annex of the General Assembly. So at the end of 2023, they struck down a bill on these same kind of grounds, the Article 3 kind of grounds. And instead of severing the portion of the bill that was offensive, they threw out the entire bill. Now, that's not a first for that happening, but it is an indication that they've changed directions. It's something called judicial severance that Judge Fisher has been arguing against for years. Now we have new members of the Missouri Supreme Court. Judge Fisher is a senior member, and it looks to me like he's influencing them in that respect. Then fast forward about a month later, maybe 3 weeks later, so January of 2024, there was another bill being challenged. It was a bill that was titled the Public Safety Bill, relating to public safety. Now, there's something called a clear title challenge. And the plaintiff didn't bring a clear title challenge, but the court said, now, had you brought a clear title challenge, we generally don't think that a bill that's styled relating to public safety is properly styled. It's not a proper title for it. And so if somebody brought a clear title challenge on that, maybe it would have gone down. So the Article 3 Institute's first lawsuit, the one we're talking about today is the second one. The first lawsuit is over the public safety bill passed in 2024. And it's just a clear title challenge. Dave Rowland is handling this case, and who's the premier attorney for all this kind of stuff, protecting our liberty in the state of Missouri. And it's all about the fact that the Supreme Court said, a clear title is not a clear title. I mean, public safety is not a clear title. And so the next public safety bill, we challenged. So I think that we've gotten some signals from the Missouri Supreme Court that maybe they're going to not give the General Assembly quite so much deference.
Ron, Rare Camellia, my friend Camellia Petersen over in the chat from Southwest Mo, is saying we need to repeal the Missouri court plan. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I only have thoughts to share. So I mentioned my good friend, our good friend, the friend of liberty, Dave Rowland, and Dave has a plan. You're not going to totally get rid of the Missouri passport plan. But Dave has a modification to it that I think is excellent. And you probably should have Dave on to talk about it so I don't misrepresent it. But in a nutshell, I think what his idea is that you retain the Commission on Judicial Selection. They're the ones that they are trial lawyer centric, and so they, right now, maybe we should explain to people. Right now, you have this group of people. They're unelected, appointed entities. They're not even bureaucrats. And they give the governor a short list of 3 judicial nominees. And the governor has to choose from those 3. And so they usually get awful, bad, and worse, to choose from. Well, Dave's plan is you have that same commission that accepts applications from people, and they put the applications in 3 categories. And the first category is very highly qualified. These are highly qualified candidates. We think that they're good people. The next are qualified candidates. And then the third pot are not qualified candidates. And then the governor gets to choose from one of those 2 first categories. If they're not qualified, the governor doesn't get to choose. If they're highly qualified, the governor can select them. They become a judge, and on the appellate level or whatever level we're talking about, and it's a done deal. If they're in the middle category, so not highly qualified but just qualified, then the governor picks one, but they have to go through approval by the Senate. Now, everybody that applies gets put in one of those 3 categories. Anybody that wants to be an appellate judge gets put in one of those 3 categories. And this commission has to explain why they put them in each of those categories. So I think this is a way to kind of split the baby, so to speak, and remove, it's not an election, so that's what they object to. It's not right now a small group of people that get to give the governor a short list. And it's not totally the governor without some, advice and consent of the Senate. So it's a very, very interesting, I think, workable idea for altering the judicial plan.
We'll have to reach out to Dave Rowland and have him on the show as well. Ron Calzone. Every time I see a news headline about an awesome new lawsuit in Missouri, there's always Ron Calzone's names behind it. Ron, thanks so much for all you do here in the state of Missouri to make Missouri and America a better place. We appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thank you, Austin.
Have a wonderful day.
Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 00 and 04. At this particular point, there is no one in the Democratic race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point there is no front runner.
What do you think? Is that because how people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. Garbage. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all 3. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
Yes. Oh, they're garbage. Garbage. You love to see it. Also, you love to see that Evan Rowan just pushed us past not only the $75 marker for the bonus content, you got the $100 marker. So this is your chance now to vote on which topic you guys want me to choose for today's bonus content. We have letter A, the curse of political purity, or letter B, cults of personality. I will teach for you at your choice, voting now over on Rumble at rumble.com/AP4Liberty, which Defense Against the Dark Arts class you would like me to teach for you now. Choose A, the curse of political purity. Why I ditched the libertarian purity test to try and actually win something for our cause. Or B, cults of personality, the new idolatry. Why putting all your hope in one political messiah is a recipe for ruin. You can choose either A or you can choose B. A is the curse of political purity. I will teach you how to fight the curse with your own brand of liberty magic. And letter B, cults of personality, the new idolatry. Why putting all your hope in one political messiah is a recipe for ruin. Here's a little breakdown of A. Orthodox libertarians love debating who's pure enough. Minarchist, anarchist, constitutionalist, paleo-libertarian, agorist, left libertarian, and why I've abandoned the purity Olympics in favor of real-world heterodoxy, building coalitions across the liberty movement, even if it means breaking some of the rules of the high priests of Rothbardianism. And as you know, there are a lot of people in the liberty movement who hate my guts. Well, I've accepted it. Too bad, so sad. But enjoy this panel of mask-wearing leftists talking about Zoran Mamdani while I go and tally up the view. You guys can enjoy this clip while I go and tally up all the votes, and then I'll be right back with your unlocked bonus content in the Defense Against the Dark Arts class.
Zoran is literally attempting to do what conservatives say, we want to do, which is provide gender-affirming care to anyone who wants it for free, and we're going to ship people, we're going to fly people in and pay for their hotel rooms, and we're going to do all of the Fox News stuff. We're getting ideas from Fox News. I want to do that. But most importantly is we collaborated with the Zoran Mamdani campaign on his trans rights platform. And
what happened to your mask, dude? What we explicitly wanted to do was use the power of New York City to provide free gender-affirming care, and I say free in case insurance companies decide to boot us off, free gender-affirming care, not just to people in New York City, but across the country. When Zoran first kind of approached DSA leadership about running, his pitch was, he said, I'm going to get socialists to vote for me, and I'm going to get Muslims to vote for me. With Zoran, we're in basically the best possible position to seize state power that we can be in because, we're like this, right? DSA has regular meetings with him, let alone his team. His policy director is my friend. I've been working with his campaign manager for well over a year. I have friends who are in his staff. Trans rights, I always would say, we are the tip of the spear. I've looked at Zoran's policies and I'm like, yep, these were floating around group chats and message boards for 5 years before they ended up in here. Zoran himself, who's about to become the mayor of the largest city in the United States, is facing the same attacks that undocumented immigrants just trying to get a job at Home Depot are facing right now. There's no reason at all that we can't use telehealth and mailing prescriptions to people across the country to undermine state bans. The Zoran campaign was always eager to work with us. All right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. Time to stop. It's time for the curse, the Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Today I will teach you about how to fight against the curse of political purity. Here we go. Welcome back to Defense Against the Dark Arts, and thank you to Evan Rowan and all of our friends for unlocking the bonus content. This is the only class where your homework is to disobey mob rule and pass the whiskey for breakfast. Today's lesson is one of the most insidious curses afflicting the liberty movement in the United States. Not just from the left here, this is from within. I call this the curse of political purity. And I've seen this hex up close. It doesn't hit you all at once. It's slow, like creeping mold in a musty basement full of stale old Ron Paul newsletters. It whispers things like, oh, you supported Gary Johnson, cringe. Oh, you believe in some government, statist pig. You think Ayn Rand had good ideas, bootlicker. You quoted Hayek and Jefferson, he owned slaves, pick a side. And just like that, you're out, right? Purged, canceled, not by the woke mob, but by your own supposed allies. Let me tell you something. I used to be an Olympic level purity tester. I could quote Rothbard, recite the NAP backwards, give you the proper number of toilets a privatized road company should legally be allowed to install per mile. But eventually I looked around and I asked, is this helping anyone? Is this winning elections? Are we changing any minds at all? Are we making anything better in the United States? No, we were just debating whether or not taxation is theft or slavery and whether minarchists should be burned at the stake before or after dinner. All right, so I quit. I walked away from the purity tests and I chose from orthodoxy to heterodoxy. Here's the case. Here's what I've learned. Minarchists taught me, like Javier Milei, how to build practical policy with radical ideas into actual real-world case studies. Objectivists, like Ayn Rand, who did not call herself a libertarian, taught me the power of rational self-interest. Stoics, who were absolutely had no idea what the hell libertarianism would be, taught me how to keep calm while being yelled at by 14-year-olds on X.com. Did you guys see that somebody was saying this show was for white people? Raise your hand if you're white. And H.L. Mencken reminded me that sarcasm is the highest form of liberty. And of course, Javier Milei showed me that screaming socialism is evil while wielding a chainsaw can work if you actually mean it. So I am building my own toolkit over here at the For Liberty Network, not to fit in with one tribe, but to build something here that works. Because here's the truth. Purity tests are social control. Right? That is what they are. They are a tool of social control dressed up in philosophical drag. Right? They're not about the truth. They're about status. They're not about principles. They're about compliance. It's about the same energy as it's the same energy as cancel culture on the left, but it's dressed in gold and black and libertarian branding, shouting NAP violation instead of problematic. How do we break this curse? So here's the spell book, friends. 3 ways to break the curse. Pull out your wands. Own your complexity. You don't owe anybody ideological virginity, right? If you think that Ayn Rand was right about reason, but wrong about foreign policy, fine. That means you're thinking, not regurgitating. When they try to trap you with, well, what about this quote from 1972? Just say, cool, I'm a grown brain. I'm a grown adult with a brain. I evolve, right? 2, refuse to shun others. If somebody's 80% your ally, then they're not your enemy. They're a potential teammate. The real enemy is the state that's spying on you, taxing you, printing your money into oblivion, not the agorist who doesn't vote for the conservative or the conservative who loves the Constitution but not crypto, right? 3, do something that works. Make art. Run for office. Host a show. Go to campaignjobsnow.com/apply like Y2Joe. Change your life, right? Launch a meme page. Sell coffee like me even. Become a competitor. That's fine. Write a damn book like I'm working on right now. If all your time is spent debating purity with anonymous accounts, you're not a revolutionary. You're a monk in a Reddit monastery. So get out. Listen, liberty is messy. Freedom means people will say dumb things. It means that people will vote wrong. People will wear Crocs in public, like me. That's okay. No. L-dubs. So next time somebody tries to hex you with the curse of political purity, look at them in the eye and say, sorry, kid, I'm too busy winning to be pure. And then go do something great, because the world doesn't need another perfect libertarian. It needs a better one. That's your defense against the dark arts for today. Stay armed with reason, shielded by sarcasm, and never, ever let ideological purists make you feel small for coloring outside the lines. More coming up tomorrow. Make sure that you guys come back. If you haven't clicked the like button, please do so as you file out. And as you exit, where do you exit? You exit through the Grift Shop. People like LW78 go to the Grift Shop. Jimmy Joe Patty goes to the Grift Shop. He loves his Rebel Revere roast. People like Y2Joe go to the Grift Shop. People like Dirty Mike goes to the Grift Shop and says, shave that damn mustache. I'm sorry, sir, but I get too many compliments on it. And says, show some naked women. It's a great idea. Hey, thanks everybody for unlocking the bonus content, especially Evan Rowan, who's been stepping in and stepping up for the community in a big way. Can we give it up for Evan Rowan, ladies and gents? He went to the Grift Shop. He went to Jared's at thegriftshop.com. If today was your first time watching the Wake Up America show, don't forget to click the follow button as well. And when you exit through the Grift Shop, grab yourself a box of our delicious Founding Flavors coffee, Thomas's Painkiller, my #1 roast over there, guys. Appreciate you all. You're amazing. We'll see you right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. See you on the Discord, guys. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. When we're not live, we're hanging out in the Discord. I'll see you guys there. Take care. Bye.
us hate taxes, and for good reason. Their legalized mugging between spending and revenues, deficits will rise by $3 trillion. Don't get me wrong, dramatically thinning the ranks of financial inquisitors at the IRS is definitely a good thing. If that's all we get, so be it. But behind the scenes is the larger long-term problem of an incomprehensible tax code that's still in place to fund